HFY, The Black Ship, Chapter 45 Part 8. Wyatt leaves no escape. The flickering lights of the ship's corridors cast long, shifting shadows as Wyatt moved with a predatory grace. His boots struck the deck with quiet authority, a stark contrast to the panicked cacophony echoing through the hull of the black ship. Behind him, his tactical HUD lit up with frantic signals from enemy combatants, each one highlighting their desperation. The once proud Kethari raiding vessel now resembled a tomb. Its crew, renowned for their ruthless efficiency, found themselves outmaneuvered, outgunned, and outthought. Wyatt had turned their strengths into liabilities. Sector 14 compromised, came a voice over the intercom, laced with fear. Seal the bulkheads, he's here. Wyatt smirked, his face illuminated briefly by the sparking remains of a sealed door he'd bypassed moments earlier. His dark exosuit absorbed the corridor's dim light, its surfaces riddled with advanced tech tailored for one purpose: domination. He thumbed the comm device on his wrist. "I warned you, Captain Ralvik, surrender now, and your crew might survive." "Human." Ralvik's guttural snarl came through. "We do not yield to inferior species." "Your funeral," Wyatt replied coldly. Wyatt scanned the corridor ahead, spotting a trio of Kethari soldiers setting up an ambush. Their insectoid forms bristled with weaponry, mandibles clicking as they communicated silently. Wyatt crouched, calibrating his shoulder-mounted drones. "Time to make this quick," he muttered. A sharp hiss echoed as the drones detached and shot forward. They darted around the corner, unleashing a barrage of precision strikes. Wyatt followed in their wake, a blur of motion. The Kethari barely had time to react before his plasma blade sliced through their ranks. The last soldier staggered back, clutching a cauterized wound, its compound eyes locked on Wyatt, filled with a mixture of fury and terror. "Run," Wyatt said, his voice a low growl. The soldier bolted. "Always leave one alive," Wyatt mused, retrieving data from a fallen Kethari's terminal. It wouldn't be long before he reached the bridge. On the bridge, Captain Ralvik paced, his claws scraped against the deck, betraying his agitation. The bridge crew worked frantically, diverting power to shields and trying to lock down the ship's systems. But Ralvik knew the truth: the human was unstoppable. "Seal all access points, deploy the war drones," he barked. A junior officer hesitated. "Captain, the war drones were already neutralized, and the access points, he's bypassing them faster than we can seal them." Ralvik's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Then prepare to fight. This Wyatt will not take my ship without a price." Wyatt arrived at the bridge door moments later, his path littered with the fallen. He tapped into his comms, activating the ship's speakers. "This is your last chance, Ralvik. Open the door, or I will." Ralvik snarled, "Come and try, human." Wyatt chuckled, a sound that sent shivers through the remaining crew. He placed a breaching charge on the door, stepping back as it detonated with a deafening roar. Smoke filled the air as Wyatt stepped through, his plasma blade igniting once more. The bridge crew turned to face him, weapons raised. Wyatt moved like a shadow, weaving through their fire. Within moments, the bridge was silent, save for Ralvik's ragged breathing. Wyatt stood over the defeated captain, his blade humming softly. "You made this harder than it had to be," he said. Ralvik glared up at him. "You think this victory means anything, human? You are but one. The Kethari will." Wyatt interrupted him with a sharp glare. "I'm not just one, I'm human, and we don't stop." With a flick of his wrist, the blade deactivated. He turned away, leaving the captain alive but broken. Wyatt activated the ship's comm system. "This is Wyatt. The black ship is under my control. Any Kethari still alive have two options: surrender, or join your captain in defeat." As the message broadcast across the ship, Wyatt leaned against the command console. He glanced at the stars beyond the viewport, his expression resolute. "No escape," he murmured to himself. "Not for them, not for anyone who stands in humanity's way." HFY, The Black Ship, Chapter 45 Part 9. The hunter becomes the hunted. The silence on the black ship was deafening, broken only by the hum of the systems Wyatt had hijacked. The remaining Kethari crew scrambled to regroup, but their panic betrayed them. Wyatt's control of the ship's internal sensors meant there was no hiding. He had eyes everywhere, tracking every movement, every futile attempt to evade him. The comm system crackled to life again. Wyatt's voice was calm, cold, and utterly devoid of mercy. "Surrender," he said simply, "or face the consequences. I don't waste time on cowards who can't fight back." In the dim engineering bay, a cluster of Cathari soldiers huddled around a tactical map, their claws tracing potential escape routes. One of them, a younger warrior named Velex, trembled as he spoke. "He's toying with us. No matter where we go, he's there before we are. How does a human do this?" A veteran soldier, Gervalik, hissed in response, "He's no mere human, he's a predator, a tactician, but we are Cathari, we adapt, we overcome." "Adapt faster," came Wyatt's voice from the shadows, startling them all. Before they could react, Wyatt stepped into view, his plasma blade ignited with a snap hiss, its blue light casting eerie reflections off the walls. "You should have listened," he said, his voice a deadly whisper. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Captain Relvik nursed his wounds. His pride hurt more than his body. To be bested by a single human was a humiliation he couldn't bear. As the moments stretched into an eternity, he realized that survival was no longer guaranteed. He reached for a hidden panel beneath his console, activating a distress beacon. The signal pulsed into the void of space, a call for reinforcements. If Wyatt noticed, he didn't show it, but Relvik knew reinforcements would take time the Cathari didn't have. Wyatt's advance was relentless. The engineering bay, the armory, the medbay, each sector fell under his control. The remaining Cathari who resisted were subdued with precision, their weapons rendered useless against his tactical superiority. Wyatt didn't kill indiscriminately, he left survivors, just enough to spread fear. By the time he reached the crew quarters, the remaining Cathari had barricaded themselves in a desperate attempt to regroup. Wyatt paused outside the bulkhead, scanning the structure for weaknesses. "Last stand," he mused aloud, "admirable, but it won't work." Using his wrist console, he overrode the life support systems in the section. Oxygen levels dropped, forcing the Cathari to emerge, gasping for air. Wyatt stood, arms crossed. As they stumbled into the corridor, his plasma blade remained at his side, a silent promise of what awaited if they resisted. "Drop your weapons," he ordered. The Cathari hesitated, but one by one, their rifles clattered to the floor. "Smart choice," Wyatt said, gesturing for them to move toward a containment area he'd secured earlier. Back on the bridge, Wyatt found Captain Relvik slumped in his chair. The defeated captain glared at him as he entered. "You think this is over, human?" Relvik spat. "The Cathari Empire will send fleets after you. You cannot stand against our might." Wyatt approached, his expression unreadable. "Let them come, I'll send them back in pieces, just like you." Relvik growled but said nothing more. Wyatt activated the comms one last time. "This is Wyatt, the Black Ship is under my command. Any incoming Cathari vessels will be treated as hostile. Engage at your own peril." The ship's automated systems began cycling through new commands, rerouting control to Wyatt's console. The Cathari insignia faded from the main display, replaced by a stark symbol, a black silhouette of the Earth encircled by stars. Wyatt turned to the viewport, gazing at the stars beyond. The game had changed. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore, they were rising, and Wyatt was leading the charge. "No escape," he whispered again, his voice carrying the weight of a promise. HFY, The Black Ship, Chapter 45 Part 10, The Signal That Doomed Them. The distress beacon sent from the Black Ship reached its intended recipients, far beyond the edge of the star system. A Cathari battle group intercepted the call, comprising 3 cruisers and a carrier. It was a force meant to crush rebellion and enforce the will of the Empire. Fleet Commander Valtrax studied the data. The last report from Captain Relvik suggested a lone human operative was responsible for the chaos aboard the ship. Valtrax sneered at the idea. "Human arrogance," he muttered, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "One human against a Cathari vessel, a pathetic boast." Still, the loss of contact with the Black Ship warranted caution. Valtrax ordered his fleet to advance at full speed, weapons charged. Aboard the Black Ship, Wyatt sat in the captain's chair. The defeated crew had been corralled into the cargo bay, under strict guard by automated drones. He leaned back, reviewing the incoming data from the ship's sensors. "Reinforcements," he murmured, spotting the blips on the long-range scanners. His lips curled into a grim smile. This wasn't fear, it was opportunity. Wyatt's fingers danced over the console. rerouting power to the ship's primary systems, shields, weapons, engines, all calibrated for optimal performance. He spoke into the comm system, his voice echoing throughout the ship. Cathari reinforcements are inbound. If any of you think this is your chance to escape, think again. You'll stay in that cargo bay unless you enjoy zero oxygen. The Cathari captives didn't respond. Wyatt knew fear when he saw it, and they were drenched in it. As the Cathari fleet approached, Valtrak hailed the black ship. "This is Fleet Commander Valtrak of the Cathari Empire. Identify yourself." Wyatt responded, his tone calm and controlled. "This is Wyatt, the ship is mine now." Valtrak let out a guttural laugh. "You are bold, human, but foolish. Surrender the ship, and perhaps we'll grant you a swift death." Wyatt smirked. "Bold, maybe, foolish, you're about to find out." With a press of a button, Wyatt initiated the trap. He'd spent the past hour reconfiguring the ship's systems, turning the black ship into a weapon. As the Cathari fleet moved into attack formation, Wyatt triggered a series of hidden mines he had dispersed from the ship's cargo hold earlier. The mines detonated in perfect sequence, catching the lead cruiser in a chain reaction of explosions. The sudden destruction threw the Cathari fleet into chaos. "What is this?" Valtrak roared, his ship shaking from the shockwave. Wyatt's voice came through the comms again, sharp and mocking. "That's just a warm-up. You've entered my playground now." As the surviving Cathari ships regrouped, the black ship surged forward. Wyatt used the ship's superior maneuverability to dart between the enemy vessels, targeting their weak points with ruthless precision. His mastery of the ship's systems turned it into a predator, while the Cathari fleet became its prey. One by one, the cruisers fell, their shields failed under Wyatt's relentless assault, and their hulls crumbled under precision strikes. The carrier, desperate to maintain its position, launched waves of fighters. Wyatt smirked. "Amateurs." The ship's automated defense systems sprang to life, unleashing a barrage of flak and plasma fire that shredded the incoming fighters before they could get close. Valtrak watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. The realization struck him like a blow. This human was more than a soldier. He was a strategist, a weapon, and a nightmare all rolled into one. "Fall back," Valtrak ordered. "Retreat, we cannot." His command was cut short as the black ship fired its main cannon, a beam of searing energy that sliced through his flagship. Valtrak's final thought was one of disbelief before his ship erupted into a ball of fire. When the battle ended, Wyatt stood on the bridge, staring at the debris field that now littered the void. The once mighty Cathari battle group was no more. He activated the comms system one last time, broadcasting to the Cathari Empire. "This is Wyatt, your fleet is gone, your crew defeated, and your pride shattered. If you send more, I'll send them back in pieces. Consider this your warning. Humanity isn't prey anymore." Wyatt shut off the comm and leaned back in the captain's chair. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself a moment of quiet. The galaxy would know his name soon enough, and they'd learn that when humanity fought back, there truly was no escape.